Alors, bonjour mesdames et messieurs, good day ladies and gentlemen, and again thank you and welcome to our daily news conference about the flood situation. Today we have Premier Brian Galland who's going to speak first, then we're going to go on with Greg McConnell from EMO, Ahmed Dasuki from DTI, Dr. Nakushi Lenti from Public Health, and Mr. Ryan Donaghy from local government and environment and local government. Also in the room, and we're going to take questions. They can take questions after our guests are done today. We have Jasper Boisvert from Environment, Wayne Talon from the City of Fredericton. We have Madame Sadi Perron from the Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Aquaculture, Marc Béliveau from Nipawal, Ali Murchison from the Red Cross, and Mr. David McKinley from the City of Fredericton. So, Monsieur le Premier ministre, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you, everyone, for being here with us today, and thank you to all the media for what you've been doing to keep New Brunswickers aware of what's happening with the floods. Je vous remercie d'être tous parmi nous, encore une fois, pour ce compte rendu. Je vous remercie aussi de votre soutien constant afin de garantir que la population néo-brunswickoise a l'information la plus récente. Nous continuons d'être reconnaissants des efforts de tous ceux et celles qui ont participé à l'intervention d'urgence dans toute la province. Nous remercions aussi les centaines de bénévoles de leur travail remarquable pour aider les sinistrés à la suite des inondations. Je me suis rendu dans plusieurs collectivités affectées par les inondations et j'ai vu des exemples inspirants de collectivités se rallier pour s'entraider. N'importe qui écoute, n'importe qui aimerait faire un don pour aider les gens affectés par les inondations, ils peuvent aller au site web croixrouge.ca ou en composant le numéro d'appel sans frais 1-800-418-1111 et en précisant qu'il s'agit d'un don pour venir en aide aux personnes touchées par les inondations au Nouveau-Brunswick. The last few days have been very difficult for many New Brunswickers. Water levels reached historically high levels in the southern regions of our province. This has been the largest and most impactful flood ever recorded in the history of our province. Keeping New Brunswickers safe has been and continues to be our top priority. Thank you to everyone who has helped and continues to help keep people safe. While visiting the areas impacted by flooding, we saw New Brunswickers do what they do best, come together and support one another. People were there to support their family members, friends, and in many cases, complete strangers. The community support has been outstanding, so to all the volunteers, thank you. People have volunteered at reception centers and emergency operations centers or to fill and deliver sandbags. People have checked up on one another, helped their fellow community members come and go from their homes, and brought food and coffee to their neighbors and volunteers. People have opened their doors to those who have had to evacuate their own homes. The response of New Brunswickers to this terrible event has been inspiring. We are also grateful for the support of our first responders and everybody involved with the EMO operations. These are special kinds of people. When a threat or danger transpires, they get right in the middle of it to keep us safe. We thank all of them for what they do every single day, and we thank them specifically for what they have done in response of the flood of this year. There are still many properties that are underwater, and although some communities and some families may be starting the recovery stage, we will continue to ensure that we are focused on the safety of all those that continue to be impacted by the floods. We ask New Brunswickers to remain patient. For many reasons, there's going to be things that are going to take longer than they would like. There's no doubt about that. First off, water has, as you know, begun to recede, but there are still places that are impacted by the floods. And those that are in the stage of full recovery, we have lots of work to be done, whether it be to clean up debris, whether it be to do the well testing, whether it be to recertify roads to ensure that the integrity is there so we can resume traffic. All of this, of course, will take quite some time, and we ask New Brunswickers to continue to show the incredible patience that they have shown over the last few days. Même si l'eau a commencé à se retirer, on rappelle aux gens du Nouveau-Brunswick que le niveau d'eau est toujours supérieur au niveau d'inondation dans certaines communautés et que la rivière Saint-Jean pourrait encore représenter une menace. Le courant de la rivière est fort et l'eau est froide et remplie de débris. Les eaux de crue elles-mêmes peuvent aussi être fortement contaminées par les égouts et être dangereuses pour la santé, car elles peuvent causer des maladies et des infections. Ainsi, les résidents sont invités de continuer à faire preuve de patience et à accorder la priorité à leur sécurité et à celle des autres. Il faut respecter les barricades, peu importe l'apparence de la chaussée. Il faut aussi respecter le personnel travaillant aux barricades. Les prévisions concernant les niveaux d'eau de la rivière sont favorables, mais les évacués ne doivent pas regagner leur domicile avant qu'il ne soit sécuritaire de le faire. The Department of Environment and Local Government Representative Ryan Donahue will go into, I'm sure, a bit more detail, but people are encouraged to dispose of sandbags via pickups or the regional landfills. Residents are reminded that the bags may not be emptied into any or within 30 meters of any watercourse or regulated wetland. People may also dispose of their sandbags as part of their flood-related debris. Le ministère de l'Environnement et des gouvernements locaux encourage les gens à éliminer les sacs de sable par l'entremise de collecte ou en se rendant au site d'enfouissement dans leur région. I also would like to update the public through the media. We have requested that the Canadian Armed Forces conduct a reconnaissance mission to determine if and how it can assist us in the recovery and cleanup efforts over the next few days and weeks. We also know that there are volunteers that want to contribute. We have been overwhelmed by the compassion and generosity demonstrated by New Brunswickers to friends, families, neighbors, and again, in many cases, complete strangers during flood relief efforts. As the waters begin to recede and flood recovery begins to take precedence, we need their continued support. Volunteers are encouraged to help the flood recovery efforts in their communities. A coordinated approach to these efforts is being planned so that those wanting to help can do so. More information on this will be made available soon, and I know officials in all the regions have been discussing this. I met with the mayors from the Greater St. John area this morning, where this was one of the subjects on the agenda of how they can coordinate some of the efforts that volunteers want to put in to helping with the recovery and the cleanup. We know that New Brunswickers want to help, and we want to ensure they are able to do so as effectively as possible. There is still much to be done in the days ahead, but working together, we will continue to show the community spirit and resiliency that is central to those who call this province home. Alors, avec ça dit, je vous remercie. I thank you very much, and I'm going to now pass the mic over to Greg McCallum from EMO.
Thanks, Ray. Good afternoon, and thank you for coming. As is obvious to everybody now, the river levels are going down, but it's important for people to stay informed because they still remain at flood stage in many locations from Fredericton South all the way to St. John. So it still poses a hazard. Some roads still closed, homes that need to be cleaned, debris that needs to be collected. Thanks to the unprecedented flooding, many New Brunswickers will soon be going through this cleanup process in all likelihood for the first time, or at least in the magnitude that we're describing. So we do want to emphasize for the safety of those folks and their families that they ensure they're familiar with all the steps they need to make their home safe again. I've talked much about electricity safety, and as a reminder, if there's doubt about electricity, it's a professional job, and please be careful around anything electrical if there's an energized area. And it's the same thing when it comes to making the determination as to what needs to be thrown out and what needs to be kept. If it's something that's durable that can be cleaned, there are lots of ways to do that and lots of advice available on how. But if it's in doubt, throw it out. There's a number of ways to get and stay informed, of course, and we keep talking about government websites, the NBEMO website, Facebook and Twitter. And so we want people to take advantage of all the resources that are available, and virtually everybody here that's presenting today and is represented here is populating websites with very useful information. For people who've already managed to return to their homes, we want to ensure that, once again, they're reminded to register with the Disaster Financial Assistance Program and with the Red Cross. And we want them to document as best they can the damage with pictures, videos if possible. That helps in the claim process. Registering with the Red Cross as an evacuee doesn't mean you've been registered for financial assistance. So there's actually two agencies that should be aware of you. An important part of being informed is the ability to follow directions. And if the directions are coming from a peace officer, at a barricade, or in any other safety or environmental constraint situation, if a road is closed, it's closed for a reason. Find an alternative way around to where you need to get. Arguing won't make any difference. Those folks are out there to provide public safety and security. So we're asking your Brunswickers to continue to show the same patience and consideration that they've demonstrated all the way through this operation. And we're well aware that a number of people have been displaced and want nothing more than to begin this recovery process. We just want them to make sure that it's a safe process, and we'll enable that to happen. A quick description of the current operational situation, because it is still an operational situation. We still have boats in the water. We still have presence patrolling and security activities going on on the water and on all our barricades, out of necessity and out of a mission for public safety. We have a huge amount of water distribution operations going on to virtually every community that requires it, every work site that needs it. And that will continue for as long as the requirement exists. There are in excess of 500 people working this operation, and as has been described by Premier Gallant, there is going to be hundreds more working through the recovery phase until it is successfully completed, and it will be successfully completed. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Greg. Amel, please, from DTI.
Thank you all. DTI is now transitioning from the response stage of this event to the recovery stage. We started planning for recovery as soon as the event started about 2 weeks ago, so that we would be easily able to make the transition. We planned recovery as we responded so that we could be ready to restore transportation links as quickly and as safely as possible. Our focus is on the restoration of transportation links in a safe and timely manner. Our top priority will be to restore links to isolated communities. We currently have technical teams deployed in the field to assess transportation infrastructure as water recedes so we can reopen roads and bridges as soon as possible. We will be using all available staff resources for the restoration effort, including bringing in casual workers earlier than usual where required. We are also ready to move staff from divisions that weren't impacted by the flood into areas that have been hard hit. We are reaching out to private contractors to help on as needed basis. We've also been in contact with our federal counterparts, Public Works Canada, and we've been assured that they are ready to mobilize if needed. We've engaged a consulting firm to assist restoration management to ensure we are in compliance with disaster assistance funding so we can recoup costs as quickly as possible. Today, I can confirm that the following assets have been reopened to traffic. And as you know, the list is fluctuating, and as the waters recede, we'll be opening up a lot more roads, hopefully, as we go along. In the St. John area, Bloomfield Road, the Hampton Green Bridge over Kennebecasis River have both reopened, as well as at Passaic Road. In District 5, which is the Fredericton area, Route 710 at Fisher Road, Route 715 from Route 10 to the Fowler Road, Route 705 from Craft Cove to the Country Line, Route 102 near the city limits, Mills Road, Route 655, Nevers Road, Route 10 at Coal Creek and the Chipman Bridge, Route 102 at Suckerbrook, Route 123 in the Chipman area, and Route 670 at Cowpasture Road have all been reopened today, or yesterday. We want to remind motorists and pedestrians to continue to respect the barricades on closed roads. If there is a barricade in place, the road is still closed. Even if the water has receded, we need to inspect those roads and assets to ensure that they are safe for traffic. We thank the public for the continued patience and cooperation in response to this unprecedented events, and please check mb511.ca for any updates on road conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, bon après-midi. My name is Dr. Nakoshi Lamti, Regional Medical Officer of Health. I'm here this afternoon on behalf of the Office of the Chief Medical Officer of Health to discuss a few important health messages. I would like to start by addressing what has become a very important topic for many New Brunswickers. That is our message regarding the consumption of wild, edible plants exposed to floodwater. Our immediate concern at this time is the wild edible plants that are harvested from along our riverbeds in the southern regions of the province where extensive flooding has occurred. Harvesting these plants is very popular at this time of year, and we are warning that plants that have been exposed to floodwater may not be safe to eat. This does not mean all wild edible plants in the province, just those in areas affected by extensive flooding. Floodwaters may have contained untreated sewage, fuel, or other contaminants, and plants, including fiddleheads, growing in impacted areas could have been exposed. In terms of other commercially grown produce, it is far too early to predict what steps will be necessary. Over the coming weeks, the Department of Health will work alongside the Department of Agriculture, Aquaculture, and Fisheries to conduct a further review and assessment of potential impacts to croplands. To reiterate, our concern at this time is only with wild, edible plants that are currently growing in affected areas. Shifting to those who are starting to go back to flood-affected areas, we want to remind them again to take all necessary precautions during cleanup activities. Avoid direct contact with floodwaters if you can. Water contaminated with sewage may carry pathogenic, that's disease-causing microorganisms, which can make people sick. Never touch raw sewage with your bare hands. Ways you can protect yourself include wearing gloves, rubber boots, eye protection, and a face mask when cleaning and disinfecting. Always wash hands with soap and clean water after cleanup activities. Do not allow children to play in floodwater areas until they've been cleaned up, or for about a week after the floodwater has cleared completely. Do not use private well water supplies affected by flooding until they have been disinfected and tested. You should wait 10 days after the floodwaters have receded away from the well and then disinfect it. Lastly, I would encourage affected residents to visit the Department of Health's website for more information about what to do after a flood. Thank you.
J'inviterai maintenant Ryan Darlemy du ministère de l'Environnement et du Gouvernement local.
Merci. I'm here to briefly speak about two related issues. One is the initial planning on debris cleanup for local service districts and municipalities, as well as the proper disposal of sandbags. Alors, je vais vous parler brièvement du nettoyage des débris laissés par les inondations ainsi que les sacs de sable. Des collectes de déchets spéciales seront organisées dans les districts de services locaux et les municipalités et les détails seront communiqués aux résidents au cours des prochains jours. Special pickups are being arranged for local service districts, and residents will be advised of the details in the coming days. For those living in municipalities, information regarding flood debris collection will be communicated directly through the municipality, and some of them have already started that communication. I'd also like to reiterate a message that has been shared widely, but the debris should not be burned. The special pickups will focus on items and debris from the flood, and we're doing all we can with our solid waste contractors to keep regular garbage pickups going where possible, given the road closures. To that end, we remind people to pile the flood debris separately from regular pickup. On rappelle aux gens qu'ils devraient empiler séparément les débris laissés par les inondations de leur collecte de semaine en semaine. For people who would like to dispose of their debris on their own, they can bring them to the Regional Solid Waste Commission landfills and the Sussex Transfer Station at no charge. A hot topic is and will become what to do with sandbags that have been utilized as part of the flood preparation. The only way that we can ensure the bags are disposed of properly is to send them to the regional solid waste or the regional service commission landfills. La seule façon de s'assurer que les sacs de sable sont éliminés correctement est de les envoyer aux commissions de services régionaux. I do, however, want to advise people to contact one of the Department of Environment regional offices for more information if the sandbags have clearly been contaminated by petroleum products, by oil or gas. These likely need to be disposed of in a different manner by an appropriate remedial company. Merci.
Merci, Ryan. Thank you, Ryan. We are now going to take questions from the media, so you let us know who you would like to address first. Question, Nick, CTV.
What has changed?
The Premier or?
I think you said the Premier, yeah.
What has changed now between asking to bring in the military now compared to a week ago?
So nothing has changed. Every single day, EMO officials have had discussions about resources. Are there enough resources on the ground? Are the resources that are on the ground fatigued? Are there a need for additional resources in certain regions? This has happened throughout this event. What is happening here is no different than what we had happen during the response period of this event. We are asking the military to do a reconnaissance to see if there are things that they can help us with. I'd like to note on Saturday of last week, I guess, the last Saturday, there were discussions like every single day about resources, and the Brigadier General in the room at that time came to the conclusion that he concurred that there was no tasks appropriate to delegate to the Canadian Armed Forces at that point. We are asking them to see if there are tasks that are appropriate to delegate to the Canadian Armed Forces during the recovery and cleanup. We certainly hope that the answer will be yes, because we would like to see as much support as possible to try to get the cleanup done as quickly as possible. We, again, want to stress that there are still people underwater. There are still people that are in a phase of response. The priority will be for all of us to ensure that we keep them safe. But there are people that are getting into the recovery stage, and we want to do everything we can to support them in getting their lives back to normal as quickly as possible. That means all hands on deck, and if it's possible to get the Canadian Armed Forces to help with the recovery and the cleanup, then that will be a very added, very much appreciated added support. If they're unable to do any of the tasks, like they have indicated to us in the previous discussions we've had during this event, then they'll let us know. But the hope is that we're going to have all hands on deck to make sure that we have the private sector through contractors, we have volunteers, hopefully some federal representatives as well, helping us ensure we're cleaning up, getting the recovery phase done as quickly as possible so people can have their lives go back to normal as quickly as possible.
Any concern that volunteers won't really put as much effort in if they know the military's coming?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think so. I was just amazed at how the volunteers, how New Brunswickers stepped up to volunteer during this. I mean, I went to Grand Bay Westfield fairly early in the response to this event, and there was about 10 people that were helping sandbag, and I went, I think 2 days later, maybe, if I'm not mistaken, and there was about 120 to 150 people there sandbagging. When people found out that there was a way for them to chip in and help their fellow neighbors, they stepped up. So I have no doubt that there's going to be people that want to volunteer, but I mean, we just have to recognize that people are going to do everything they can to help, but there's going to be extensive work to be done over the coming days and weeks to get life back to normal for many people that have been affected by this flood. We recognize that, and we're going to do everything we can to ensure that their lives can be back to normal as quickly as possible.
What do you envision the military doing if they do anything? And can you remember the name of the Brigadier General?
I don't have it with me. I believe it's Macaulay, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, is it Macaulay? Thank you. I would not be in a place to really tell you what the military can, will, or are willing to do in helping us clean up and recovery. What I can tell you is that the federal government as a whole has been very supportive. I want to reiterate the Departments of Fisheries and Oceans, the Canadian Coast Guard, and many others that have come, Transport Canada, and many others that have sent resources to help us get through the floods of 2018. With that said, the Canadian Armed Forces have been a great partner as well, liaising with us throughout this event, and we certainly hope there's something that they're going to be able to do to help us with the cleanup and recovery efforts, but it will certainly be for the Brigadier General to decide.
What can government do for cottage owners during the losses?
So as I think you all know, I think I saw reported in most of your media outlets, we are looking at coming up with a program to help those that would have damages caused to the recreational properties. It is difficult, as we know, as we have mentioned to you already, the disaster financial assistance program, as it is with the federal government's criteria, covers 90% of the investments made to help people with their damages, but only in the case of residential properties. We are going to have to go at it alone in developing some type of support for the recreational properties. So I want to set expectations very clearly that if we get to a point that there is a program in place, which we're confident there will be, it will not be as much financial support as those that have residential properties that have been damaged would receive. And it's simply because the federal government provides 90% of that support. If the federal government were to expand their criteria and include recreational properties, we would match it. But failing that, we are going to try to come up with some support that the recreational properties will be able to get help with the financial burden caused over the next few days, weeks, and even months.
Quand pensez-vous avoir une réponse de l'armée quand va-t-elle terminer sa mission?
L'impression que j'ai, ça serait dans les prochaines 24 heures. L'expérience que nous avons eue avec la crise du Vogla, ça avait été assez rapide lorsqu'on avait fait la demande de voir quelle sorte d'efforts qu'ils pourraient nous aider avec. Et une fois qu'ils nous disent voici qu'est-ce qu'on pourrait faire ou voici pourquoi nous ne pouvons rien faire, nous allons certainement agir rapidement pour essayer de déployer leurs efforts ou bien sûr on va certainement comprendre si ce n'est pas possible qu'ils sont capables de venir nous aider avec cette étape.
Sur l'idée de laisser les gens rebâtir au même endroit et de la même façon. Est-ce que c'est prévu dans le processus qu'on va se demander si les gens peuvent rebâtir au même endroit et s'ils peuvent le faire, si c'est de la même façon, s'ils vont devoir rebâtir plus haut, d'autres mesures de prévention?
C'est une question donc nous avons besoin de répondre à long terme. Malheureusement, il n'y a pas de doute avec cet événement. Il va y avoir des situations où les gens vont se demander est-ce qu'on devrait reconstruire ici lorsqu'on a déjà eu des événements de cette envergure et d'autres événements qui auraient causé des dommages. Qu'est-ce que je peux vous dire à long terme? J'ai les réponses à long terme. Nous allons certainement tout faire ce qu'on peut pour combattre les changements climatiques, jouer notre rôle ici au Nouveau-Brunswick pour combattre les changements climatiques. Numéro 2, on va jouer notre rôle comme gouvernement pour faire tout ce qu'on peut pour mitiger les effets des changements climatiques. Numéro 3, on va tout faire ce qu'on peut pour avoir l'information nécessaire pour mieux comprendre où on devrait investir en tant que gouvernement provincial, fédéral, municipal, en tant que citoyen et citoyenne aussi du Nouveau-Brunswick. Alors, il faut mieux préparer avec des données les genres d'investissements que les personnes veulent faire, considérant c'est où les zones d'inondation. Évidemment, ces informations vont, je suis certain, aider tout le monde que j'ai énuméré.
Il y a des gens qui vont pouvoir commencer à rénover ou à reconstruire le plus tôt possible, puis on peut comprendre ça. Est-ce qu'il est question que vous preniez une certaine décision avant ça, pour les empêcher de reconstruire au même endroit de la même façon, ou si à court ou moyen terme, ça c'est hors de question?
C'est possible, mais je vais vous dire que je suis surpris qu'on serait prêt à ce point-là. La raison pour ça, c'est qu'on ne veut pas seulement faire des décisions d'envergure comme celui-ci sur l'émotion. Il faut avoir des données. Alors, à long terme, qu'est-ce qu'il faut faire? C'est faire des investissements pour avoir les données nécessaires pour mieux comprendre c'est où les zones d'inondation, c'est où les autres régions ou les autres communautés qui pourraient avoir des impacts dans l'avenir en raison des changements climatiques. Alors, c'est très difficile de faire ces décisions en isolation sans les données, mais je pense que cet événement est un rappel, que c'est un rappel assez fort, que c'est important de commencer à penser à long terme comme ça, et encore une fois, que c'est important de jouer notre rôle ici au Nouveau-Brunswick pour combattre les changements climatiques.
I have a similar question. In Ontario, they have conservation officers who don't generally allow people to build flood zones. You will have people now that will probably want to rebuild or renovate extensively places that have flooded. Shouldn't the government step in and stop them before they do that so that we don't have a reoccurrence of this?
Well, a few things. I mean, and I guess I'll add this to the answer that I gave you, Mathieu, because I didn't say it in French. I mean, individuals own properties and are allowed to to do what they want with properties, of course, respecting zoning and respecting all the bylaws and rules and regulations. The long-term answer to your question is you're absolutely right to say that we need to do a better job in New Brunswick and across the country of mapping out the flood zones, of mapping out other communities or other areas of our province that could be affected by climate change. This event, again, I personally don't like to link any event to climate change. I link the severity and frequency of the events to climate change. So this event is a reminder of the importance for us to get the facts and evidence that we need to be able to, and data that we need to be able to make those type of decisions in the long term. It's going to be very complicated and difficult for us to make those types of decisions that are very significant ones at this stage, because we don't have all of the data and we don't have all of the evidence that we would need to make these very important decisions that can have obviously major impacts on communities and families. But what I can tell you is we are taking this event as another reminder that we have to step up here in New Brunswick to play our role to combat climate change. And it's a reminder as well that we have to invest more into ensuring that our communities are resilient and that we have the data and evidence that we need to make the right long-term decisions to plan to mitigate against climate change in the future.
Before we go, I would like to give a few minutes to David McKinley from the City of Fredericton, who has some messages to share with us.
Hi, thank you for coming, everyone. My name is David McKinley. I'm responsible for coordinating efforts for the City of Fredericton with our recovery effort. We are now that water levels are dropping here in Fredericton, we're moving into the recovery stage. And so I have 3 points I just wanted to touch on, basically reiterating some of the points that were already made by the other speakers. First of all, the damage to property and disaster financial assistance. Again, I wanted to point out again, residents can report their flood-related damages by calling the 188-298-8555 number that was set up by the province for registering their damages online. Many people have already registered their claims and are being processed by the provincial government. Safety inspection teams have already been set up in Fredericton and have begun their work. These are led by, it's a provincial initiative, and safety inspection teams will be assessing homes for structural integrity, electrical issues, as well as potential health and environmental hazards. Cleanup kits for the do-it-yourselfers. Red Cross already has their kits available at 318 Maple Street here in Fredericton, and starting on May 14th at Service New Brunswick, people will be able to pick up kits there during regular business hours on Queen Street. Samaritan's Purse is also set up here in Fredericton, and they are here to help flood victims by sending one of their special disaster relief units, and they're recruiting volunteers to help clean damaged homes. Anyone needing Samaritan's Purse cleanup assistance can call 1-800-547-2663. Volunteers will come to your home and they will remove flood-damaged furniture, flooring, wall coverings, and other items that were affected by the flood and put them out to the curb for pickup. Flood debris pickup. The City of Fredericton will be offering special debris pickup. As was noted earlier, we've already begun that process here in Fredericton, and the pickup service will be in effect until May 28th. This special service is separate from regular garbage day, recycle day, or the annual spring yard cleanup initiative. People wishing to independently dispose of non-hazardous items may take them to the Solid Waste Commission at no charge, as was stated earlier. So we would remind citizens to please put any household flood debris and large debris from your property at roadside. These materials should be piled away from regular household garbage and recycling materials. Sandbags may be repurposed for your property or disposed of with flood debris. Any household hazardous material should be piled separately from the flood debris, and we picked up after. And people should start tearing out their wet building materials as soon as possible to avoid mold buildup. Again, was mentioned earlier, don't burn your flood debris because it can cause negative environmental impacts. Illegal dumping is also offended, and offenders will be prosecuted. Starting tomorrow, the Fredericton firefighters with our department will go around door to door to flood affected areas with an information sheet for all citizens, letting them know all of the assistance that's available. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I have just a quick question. Sorry. I think either of you, EMO or Department of Transportation, I just wanted to know, we were out today on Route 2, and it's such an integral route for so many people. I wondered if it affected at all emergency vehicles, and if there's anything that has been learned from it. Because from what I understand, it's the first time it's ever happened.
You're talking about Route 2?
Yes, the Trans-Canada.
If I understand your question is, were the impacts on Route 2 an impediment to emergency response? Is that correct?
I know they found ways around it, but with road closures, I know that they also do depend on Route 2. Did it, and have we learned anything about it since we're now looking at less than 24 hours away, finally be opened again?
Well, that's a double-barrel question. First of all, yes, it was an impediment for certain types of vehicles, but we have a variety of types of vehicles. And we have a sufficient numbers of vehicles that we are able to negotiate water that would be a danger to the public. And for those areas that were inaccessible beyond a barrier, that was what boating was all about. And we had to resort to that in many instances. Were there lessons learned? There's always lessons learned. And during this operation, there will literally be hundreds of lessons learned. But I have to have a shout out here to the agility of emergency first responders, Ambulance New Brunswick, the fire service who has done yeoman service, and as well the use of aviation and innovation in many ways enabled us throughout the response phase and continuing on today to ensure emergency response was never compromised. Thank you for that question.
Can I ask you about the alert system last night? Are you up on that?
I'm very up on that.
Some didn't get it.
On the 25th of March, I had a couple of media interviews where I introduced the idea of the wireless aspect of public alerting. You're probably all used to the TV and radio parts of that. But I first introduced that and talked at the time about the fact that this was going to be a test. And a test always proves the utility of something and to what degree. And this is a very good system. But from day one of the things I wanted to make sure people understood was it is contingent upon the compliance of the phone or whatever device you have in your hand. And there are multiple generations and styles and versions of phones out there. And as expected, some of them did not receive the alert because of obsolescence or not being updated. So the test proved the point that the system works, and it worked extremely well as it was intended, but not everybody got it. And that's literally a case of not having an up-to-date phone that was compliant. That's a carrier issue. And if your phone didn't receive the alert, you got a couple of options. The first one is go talk to your service provider and find out if it's going to be updated. And if it's not, get a new phone.
Do we have numbers on how many people received the message and how many did?
Not yet. That's part of the analysis, John. And it's being done across 8 provinces that tested the system yesterday and 2 previous and the territories. It takes a while. Pelmerex, who owns the Weather Channel, are the aggregators of the system, and they send the alerts to the carriers. And they also have the function of determining the degree of effectiveness of the system. There'll be a couple of tweaks involved in this, but again, it's at the end of the line where the compliance of the device is ultimately the determinant. Thank you for the chance to clarify that.
Any more questions? D'autres questions? Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much.